You're listening to Systemic Error Podcast. The failure was designed.
The Roberts Court's favorite trick, calling power neutral. A court that knows exactly what it is doing. Adam Serwer's column, as described in the source, argues that the Roberts Court is not merely conservative. It is actively clearing legal space for executive power, narrowing civil rights protections, and laundering obvious discrimination through the language of constitutional restraint. That is the story. The rest is varnish. Power is not hiding. The institution with the power here is the Supreme Court, not the people being hurt by its decisions. John Roberts and the court's conservative majority are not confused observers watching history happen to them. They are deciding which claims count as law and which forms of exclusion get a judicial blessing. That matters because the court has not been passive. According to the source, it has helped expand presidential power while stripping away protections promised by the Reconstruction amendments and narrowing anti-discrimination law. That is not legal housekeeping. It is a constitutional project with winners and losers, and the winners are the people already closest to state power. The smear is the method. The source points to a familiar judicial move: treat racist or authoritarian conduct as if it were merely technical administration. Hugo Black's Korematsu language is the old version of the trick. Roberts' invocation of Korematsu's disgrace, even while upholding Trump's travel ban targeting predominantly Muslim countries, is the newer one. The court denounces the principle in theory and reproduces its logic in practice. That is not inconsistency, it is misdirection. The court pretends to be embarrassed by overt bigotry while still giving it operational support. It dresses discrimination up as neutrality, then asks everyone to admire the robe. Trump gets the space, the court gets the alibi. The source is clear that the legal system is granting Trump and the right-wing legal movement room to keep pushing. The point is not only that Trump benefits, the court benefits too, because it gets to present each expansion of executive authority as a careful, history-bound judgment rather than a political choice. That is the bargain. The presidency gains room to act, and the judiciary preserves its self-image as sober referee. Roberts' Court can then say it has not embraced authoritarian power. It has merely failed to recognize it when it appears in front of the bench. That failure is the service. Discrimination hardened into doctrine. The source also notes the court's one-sided culture war pattern, including its rulings upholding bans on transgender girls and women in school sports. This is not moderation. It is the court selecting a vulnerable group and converting prejudice into lawful procedure. That is why the language of restraint is so dishonest. The court is not carefully balancing competing rights. It is deciding whose dignity can be discarded without cost. Trans people, immigrants, and ethnic minorities are being used as proving grounds for illegal order that is increasingly comfortable with state-backed exclusion. The larger pattern. The deeper pattern is simple. American institutions often do not collapse into authoritarianism all at once. They normalize it case by case, ruling by ruling, while insisting the underlying structure remains intact. That is the Roberts Court's real legacy as described here. It does not just fail to stop the drift, it smooths the path, gives it legal polish, and calls the result constitutional fidelity. That is how democratic erosion gets managed in plain sight, not through dramatic rupture, but through respected institutions teaching the public to mistake submission for principle. You've been listening to Systemic Error. Thanks to Alternet for today's article, with the automated voice of Ryan. Thanks for listening.